Welcome to this masterclass on how to find a placement here. I'm Joss Harrison, one of the careers consultants at Newcastle, and this is for you if you're looking for a 9 to 12-month placement to do in the penultimate year of your undergraduate degree. We're going to look at where to look for a year-long placement, how to look most effectively, and also where to find additional information and support. This session is designed as a short introduction to get you started, but you can find the dates of our more in-depth live sessions in Semester 1 on our events page, and I'll also explain how to access one-to-one support at the end of this session. Okay, so there are lots of opportunities out there, and understanding a bit about the job market should help you find what's right for you. And it's a bit like an iceberg. It's estimated that about 25% of the market is what we see. Like the tip of the iceberg, we can easily find it. This means that 75% of the market, like the iceberg, is hidden from our view, and we need to kind of go looking for it. And we see Newcastle students finding their placements in both sections of the job market, and we will cover both in the following slides. First of all, let's look at the university resources you can use. My Career is where the Careers Service advertises all the placements that recruiters send us, and we receive a real variety, so it probably should be an important part of your search. Once you're in My Career, go to the Vacancies section and select Placement for the vacancy type. Although the majority of placement years are advertised in the autumn term, there are exceptions at other times of the year. It's updated regularly, so if you can't find what you want immediately, do keep trying. But the best tip is to create a profile and ask for regular alerts. Our website also has a section including specialist resources for every job sector, and each sector has a Gaining Experience tab, and this is where you will find more niche information and advice on finding placement years in particular sectors. Staying with the Careers Service, keep an eye on our events pages for any events, be they on or off campus, where recruiters will be promoting their placement year opportunities. Finally, find out how your school or subject area shares any opportunities that are sent directly to them. And this really does vary across the university. So some schools might have blogs or a particular place on Canvas, whereas others might just email them out on an ad hoc basis. Okay, so let's move on to some of the resources you can use externally. And first of all, there are a number of student-specific recruitment websites, and Rate My Placement is one of the very high-profile ones. But you'll find a full list of them on the URL I've included here. Be prepared to use a few, however, as different recruiters favour different sites. And again, create alerts so that you don't miss things. Secondly, there are some huge, really well-known recruitment websites aimed at everybody in the job market. So for example, Indeed. And you would find placements here. Again, create alerts, but be patient because there'll be lots of irrelevant things, but also hopefully some hidden gems. And then finally here there is LinkedIn. Originally a networking platform, this is an increasingly important tool when job hunting, and we are seeing students finding placements here as well. If you're unfamiliar with the platform, then I've included a link to some tips that can hopefully get you started. Now let's look at some of the things to be aware of when using the resources we've just seen. Because these placements are so widely advertised, a lot of other students will have seen them, meaning that they're likely to be competitive. However, do not let this put you off. Newcastle students do well, and you should be in a really good position to compete. You do need to be prepared for some lengthy application processes, so online recruitment tests, application forms, videos and assessment centres, and some strict, sometimes early deadlines. An early deadline, for example, might be November to start a placement the following September. You should also find though lots of information about what you would do on the placement, and recruiters kind of experienced in recruiting students for these years. What they offer might also feed into their graduate recruitment, so if you do well, you might return in your final year with a job offer. They will require you to relocate to wherever the job is, so you might find yourself moving to a previously unfamiliar part of the country. Also, bear in mind that lots of these opportunities tend to be with recruiters who have a well-established culture of offering year-long placements, and they are concentrated in specific sectors or job roles. So you're likely to find a lot of businesses with business roles such as finance, marketing, human resources, a lot of IT, a lot of engineering. There will be exceptions to this, but you will find a lot of these things. Whatever you're looking for, be prepared to use a range of resources and over a period of time. So don't just look once and give up. Keep looking. It can take a while. But we're going to move on now and think about accessing that hidden job market. So we're looking at the opportunities that could be out there for you, but aren't on the websites that we've just mentioned. And depending on what you want to do, you might have to look here, particularly if there isn't a well-established culture of offering placement years in what you want to do. Or it might be simply that you prefer what might be on offer here, for example, with smaller organisations, or for others of you, it might be looking for a backup plan. It's worth noting that on the career service placement year in 2019 to 20, at least 1/3 of students found their placement here. And that was either via a contact that they were able to make or a speculative application. When I say speculative, I mean that the employer wasn't advertising. Instead, the student got in touch and asked for a placement. So let's have a look at how you might do that. And what we're talking about here is independent research. It's about finding an organisation where you would like to do your placement. And I'd suggest that you start with the people that you know, your family, your friends, your neighbours, people at your part-time job, academics, other students, and then also ask them who they know. Now, I'm not suggesting that your neighbour is necessarily going to hand you a placement in your dream organisation. It's more that these people could be a source of ideas, so maybe for organisations you haven't heard of, or people you could contact for information and advice. Let everyone know what you're looking for and see what comes back to you. Do not underestimate the power of doing this. Now, as Newcastle students, you have a ready-made bank of contacts that you can access. So we have 2 alumni platforms. So Newcastle graduates who've said they would like to support current students. So there is NCL Spark and Newcastle Alumni on LinkedIn. And there's a link there to help you get started with those. Also, have a think about which organisations you're already aware of. So if you have a particular interest, let's say in computer gaming, who are the big organisations? Who are the smaller emerging organisations? What are the press in that area saying about what organisations are doing? Make a list, look at their websites. You might find they're actually advertising placements. Or if not, try and identify the name of somebody that you could email and ask if it might be possible. On the Career Service website, we have links that I've got here to professional bodies where you will typically find a list of lots of recruiters in a particular profession, or business directories which will tell you, give you listings of employers as well. Also, think about how you can make the most of social media to find a placement. Now, I know lots of you will be using Facebook and perhaps Instagram and other things as well. But don't forget that recruiters often use these platforms, usually all of them nowadays, to reach out to their clients. So maybe use these as sources of information to find names and to generate some ideas. Okay, so let's say that you found a really interesting organisation that looks great to go and do a placement. What do you do next? Well, it's about getting in touch with them. Wherever possible, try and identify a particular individual that you can write to. Send them a letter, send them an email, explaining who you are and what you're looking for. And this is a really important point, I think. Be prepared to follow up. This can make all the difference. Lots of people won't reply, but just don't let it go. Just within reason, follow up. And never be, the Career Service, we're really happy to support you with any of this. For most people, it's the first time they've had to do something like this. It can be a bit daunting. We are here to support you with it. Okay, so this type of looking for a placement, when you're really going out and creating your own opportunity, let's just go through a few of the things to be aware of. You do need to drive this process. So the people who are succeeded are the people who are very motivated and very determined. You know, they get ignored, they get knocked back, but they keep going. You also need a relatively clear idea of what it is you want to do, whether you want to know you want to work in a particular sector, or you know that you want to do a particular role. You need this. You can't look for everything or your search would be impossible. What there is with this, though, is huge potential to find what you want. An organisation might never have thought of having a placement student, but we have seen many students persuade them and have very successful placements. It also gives you more control over where you live. So if living in a particular spot like Newcastle or somewhere else is important to you, then you could make the decision just to search in the area. There is also less competition. Chances are you're going to be the only person asking the recruiter. And from what we've seen so far, it's a less intensive application process than with the advertised placements that attract very many applications. You also have to juggle fewer, if any, recruiter deadlines, although you do need to make sure you hit the university deadlines. But as long as you do that, you have plenty of time to find a placement. Okay, so when do you start doing this? When do you get going? Well, it kind of depends what stage it is that you are when you're watching this film, but now it's never too early, whether it's research into what's out there in the job market that matches your interests. But do be aware of deadlines and that they vary considerably. As I've mentioned, some of the large organisations with advertised placements might close before Christmas. Use a range of resources in the visible job market, the hidden job market. Look regularly, think creatively, be persistent, and go for it. Also, whilst you ultimately have to find the placement, do make sure you're making the most of all the support that's available to you. And just a couple of things in connection to that, the Careers Service blog has a placement year section where you can read about lots of students' experiences of finding placements and doing placements. And then when it comes to actually applying for your placement, the Careers Service has plenty of advice, and I've got some links here, as you can see, to every aspect of the application process, including feedback on any applications you're making, or if you'd like to discuss your strategy for approaching recruiters or looking for placements. Finally, here is a reminder of where you'll find lots of the information that I've linked to throughout this session. Also a reminder that we can give you one-to-one support and that you can access that through My Career, and there is a link there. Okay, I hope that's been helpful. All the very best with your placement search, and please do get in touch with us if we can support you.